All right, hello. I'm Nadia with the Nadia podcast. I'm so excited to be here today with my colleague and work spouse, Matt Edelen. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. And yourself, Nadia?
Fantastic. We're recording on a Friday. I feel loose. I feel ready for the weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely. It is time for the weekend. So
Absolutely. So what I'm doing while you're here, right, is we're trying to get a better understanding of the adult education landscape. I consider myself a pretty informed, intelligent person, right? Sure. But one thing that's definitely a blind spot for me is data. I know it's so important. It definitely informs a lot with our practice, but the reality is I don't understand anything about it. So I was so happy when you agreed to come on the show to talk about data, because you're going to really help me just better understand it.
all right, data is a monster unto itself. It really is. And when you sit and look at numbers, it really can tell you a lot about what's going on, but it's not nearly, unless you know what's going on throughout your program, what's going on in your classrooms, the data is just a piece of it. You have to look at everything holistically, but the data definitely does help give you an idea of what's going on sometimes.
That's fantastic. Great. But before we even really deep dive into it, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Matt Edelen. I am currently the Student Success Coordinator for the Albuquerque Adult Learning Center. Part of my responsibilities include being the organization's data tech and running reports and all that good stuff. And I also do all of our intake. I work with the students from intake. I get them through their initial tape testing, orientation, helping them decide which of our instructors' classes they'd like to go to, just really supporting our students in the onboarding side of things, but then also working with them throughout their time with us, talking to them things about attendance and test anxiety, and just really making sure that they have a good support person that they can feel comfortable talking to, no matter what they need to talk about, whether it's something in class, something outside of class, just knowing they have somebody within our organization to really support them. Before I joined the Albuquerque Adult Learning Center, I worked for Creative Work Solutions, who is a state contractor that manages TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. And that was short-lived. But prior to that job, I was also an instructor for UNM Valencia. I taught classes for the ACE program, as well as classes for UNM Valencia, including their learning and career skills class.
Wow, so you have kind of a pretty good overview. It's not just data. You've had other experiences. Can you talk to us about talk to the audience, what does student success coordinator mean exactly? Because you listed a whole bunch of responsibilities. That's incredible. But yeah, what does it mean to be a student success coordinator? Why that title?
I really think the title it really shines a light on one of the things that I think is super important in adult education, which is really focusing on the student as a whole. Is this a student who also needs to focus on a career. Maybe they're working two jobs and they need a job that works better for their life. Maybe they're struggling with something at home, and need resources. Um, One of the biggest things I point out every orientation for our students is a little resource section in the Google Classroom for orientation that just gives them all kinds of resources that they can use. But when I point that out to them, I also really stress to them, if you need any resources and you're just not sure where to find them, reach out to me. I will look and see what I have. And if I don't have something, I'm pretty sure I can find somebody who does. And just really giving them that sense that there's at least one person that I can always reach out to in this organization, that if I'm just having a really hard time making it to class, that they're going to listen to me and help me find solutions. Because I really want for all of our students, not just for Albuquerque Adult Learning Center, but the entire state, I want all of our students to really truly feel like they have that future, that we are preparing them for college and career, that they have someone that they can say, hey, I need X. Do you know of anywhere that can help me with that? Just being able to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need help. That's a life skill. And it's a hard one to learn. But just knowing that there's somebody that can do that for them is really why I focused on that title. And it has already paid dividends. I've had students reach out to me and say, hey, I could not say this to my teacher, but I need this. And we've been able to find them whatever resource they need to continue being a student in our program successfully.
So would you say you're kind of like the resource guy then, in that sense, that outside of instructional support, they're getting these additional? So maybe the term is wraparound service. Are you the wraparound guy?
I try to be. Like, if I know of a resource that can help a student out, I'm going to give it to them, regardless of where they're coming from. I mean, I've had students tell me, hey, Matt, I'm 4 days sober. And I'm like, woohoo, yay. I'm glad you're here. Keep it up. And then they usually follow that up with, I need help.
Right.
So yeah, that wraparound service. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Like, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you called these people? Like, just like really being able to say, hey, there is support out there for what you need. So here you go. Let's do this. Because if we address their needs outside of their education, they can focus on their education. And it's not us like solving their problems. It's us saying, hey, we know of something that can help. So here's that help you need.
Well, so it sounds like you're a little into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Would you agree with that?
I love Maslow.
So just for those who aren't sure what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are, can you give us just a really brief overview on that?
All right, so Maslow's hierarchy of needs are essentially, it's a pyramid, where your most basic needs are at the bottom of the pyramid, and those needs need to be met to allow your needs higher up in the pyramid to be met. So the bottom of the pyramid is psychological needs. Or I'm sorry, not psychological, physiological. Food, water, air, shelter, clothing, just those most basic needs that we all as humans have. The next step is safety needs. Security, employment, resources, health. And for me, those bottom two are the super important ones. for students to be successful. If somewhere along those lines they're not being met, it can intrude on their education. Then after safety, we have love and belonging. So friendship, intimacy, family, things like that. After love and belonging, we have esteem. So respect, self-esteem, recognition, freedom. And we're gonna help our students develop those things for sure. I've helped students see, hey, I can be proud of myself. I've worked hard. I'm getting where I want to go. So esteem is next, and then above esteem is self-actualization, which is the desire to become the most that one can be. So, and again, for me, it's really those bottom two, the physiological and safety. If something's not being met there, those are the things that our students are going to come to us potentially, and saying, hey, this is what's making it hard for me to really focus, or to do my homework, or to do that hour on essential ed that you asked me to do last night, whatever it may be, because their focus isn't necessarily on their education. It's about getting those needs met, so that they are safe and secure in themselves and with their children and their families.
Wow, that was a great overview, really in depth too. And I'm going to include in the episode kind of notes, a link to Maslow's hierarchy of needs for those who are interested in that visualization that you were talking about. And I think like a really great way to put it very simply, if you're starving, you're not going to care about fractions, right? If you don't know where you're going to sleep tonight, you're not going to be worrying about the Civil War, right? You cannot place importance on education without meeting those very basic needs. And that's absolutely something that across the board adult ed has seen and has worked with, whether or not we actually know the term, right? Whether we know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs actually are. Absolutely. So thank you, Matt, for sharing that. So yeah, so that the way that your position is centered, there's just so much. You have so much different aspects. So let's shift gears. Let's talk about data. First off, my question to you, maybe this is a bit too broad, but when we say data, what data are we referring to? What are we talking about in terms of adult ed?
I mean, it really is everything about our students, from their demographic information, family income, test scores. It's all of that. Now, of course, for most of our instructors, the big piece of data that's always thrown around is MSG, that good old MSG rate. And that's an important piece of the data. But I also look at things like what percentage of our students are coming in below a ninth grade level. What percentage of our students are coming in below a sixth grade level? Like, just really trying to determine, where do our students fit in these different demographic areas, these different statistical areas, because it's important if your program's getting a lot of students that are, let's say, coming in really strong NRS level 4, and that's still below the ninth grade level. But you can say, hey, this is where the majority of our students' skills are coming in. Let's make sure we're focusing on building on the strengths these students already have. Or you might be looking at, hey, I've got a lot of students that are coming in at these lower levels. Maybe we need to, investigate and shift, some of our focus on, we need to work on some of these skills. So it can really inform your instruction, But then we also look at things like when I look at MSGs, what subject areas are we getting the most MSGs in? It's this subject area that we're doing really well in. That's awesome. Really kind of seeing where your program's strengths are as well, so that you can really focus on those things that are most important and can be most impactful not only to our students but to our program's performance as well.
This interview will continue in part 2 of this episode. Thank you for listening to the Nemea podcast.